Well, let's bring in Adam Creighton, the Washington correspondent for the Australian newspaper. Adam, thanks for your time today. Look, Sam Bankman-Fried, he was arrested in the Bahamas yesterday, and now we've heard pretty damning testimony before Congress. It appears FTX management was just totally out of its depth and had no idea how to run a massive company.
Yeah, look, that's right. It's just an extraordinary story. The Manhattan attorney who brought the 8 fraud charges against Sam Bankman-Fried said it was quite possibly the biggest fraud in US history. Some $7 billion has gone missing and it's not likely to be recovered. So basically customers who deposited, they thought they were investing in crypto and they gave it to his exchange. But little did they know, the money was actually being funneled off to his hedge fund, some other company that Sam Bankman-Fried ran. And then the money was lost. So, of course, that's an extraordinary fraud, a very kind of classic fraud, if you like, Ponzi scheme almost, if you like, so taking a customer's funds and using it for something else. But yes, look, it's a spectacular story. Apparently, he's going to fight extradition, or at least he's left the option open to fight extradition to come back to the US. And the charges that the Southern District of New York have made have been fairly vague. And apparently the reason for that is that if they get him on extradition, they can no longer add charges after that. So they've just made it as broad as possible. But you'd certainly be very worried if you were Sam Bankman-Fried right now. I mean, we almost have to laugh a little. There was a lot of criticism of US authorities for weeks for not doing anything. Well, they've certainly made up for it. I mean, it's not just the Southern District of New York, it's also the SEC and the CFTC, two financial regulators in the US. They've also sued him as well. So it's like a world of pain, I think, for SBF, as the media likes to call him.
Yeah, US authorities clearly clamping down. John Ray III, he's been leading the company for the last 4 weeks. I just want to play you another little grab from him. Just take a quick listen to this.
This is really old-fashioned embezzlement. This is just taking money from customers and using it for your own purpose. Not sophisticated at all. Sophisticated perhaps in the way they were able to sort of hide it from people, frankly, right in front of their eyes.
So, Adam, you mentioned the word Ponzi scheme a minute ago. We know Bernie Madoff sentenced to 150 years for his Ponzi scheme. What do you think Sam Bankman-Fried's chances are?
Well, look, I don't think very good. And, of course, this has a political layer too, which the Bernie Madoff case I don't think did. And that is that 70 million of that 7 billion went to political parties as donations, and especially to Democrats, and especially to the House Financial Services Committee, which I think is the committee actually that was interrogating John Frey today. So this is an extraordinary story. I think it's going to go on for weeks and months. And yes, the sentence, I mean, if he's found guilty, will be extremely high. It's extraordinary that he got away with it. I mean, at least Bernie Madoff looked like a serious investor, was a lot older than 30. And presumably used better accounting software than QuickBroker, which is what came out in the testimony today, that this company, FTX, which was once, I think, valued at more than $30 billion US, was using accounting software that the local hairdresser might use, and had no HR department either. Very strange, and yet, very serious people. I think more than 2.5 million Americans gave money to the FTX. They thought that they were trading crypto, and of course they've made huge losses. I think there were 7.5 million around the world. So this is not just a US story. There's losses scattered throughout the world. So it is extraordinary that he got away with it. I mean, he must have charm in some way. I certainly don't see it, but he must have something.
And Adam, just shifting to something else now, overnight the US inflation figures have also come out, and it sort of looks like prices may have turned the corner and have peaked in America. Is that right?
Yeah, look, it was certainly good news. The monthly inflation rate, which is what all the economists look at, of course, because it's the most real data, that just increased by 0.1% over the month between October and November, which was a third as fast as what economists had expected. They were expecting 0.3. As you say, the annual rate has fallen, quite sharply from 7.7 last month to 7.1 now, and well down from the 9.1 peak that we saw in June. So there are certainly glimmers of hope that maybe the rate of inflation is is declining, but it's worth looking at history just, to be a bit cautious about that claim, because of course in the 70s and 80s, quite often the inflation rate would fall a bit, and then a couple of years later it would go back up again. So it's early days yet, and certainly, the fall is not enough to stop the Federal Reserve from increasing rates. Everyone's basically penciled in a 0.5 percentage point increase to 4.5% here for the benchmark rate. So rates are still going up. The good news, though, of course, is that there's no recession yet. I mean, people have been forecasting a recession pretty much all year, and it hasn't happened. You've got to have, I think we've spoken about this so many times on this show, and I would say, it's dire, but it's not happened. And indeed, I think as we discussed last week, the October spending figures here were very strong, and car sales are still strong, and home sales are still strong. So it's interesting that those much higher rates so far don't appear to have clobbered the economy. So maybe we will get a soft landing. Let's hope.
Well, Adam Creighton, Washington correspondent for The Australian, thanks so much for your time today.